of you that aren't security, I'm just took on as the MBK Suicide Prevention Coordinator, and with September being Suicide Awareness Month, we are conducting our mandated annual training. So, with that said, can I get everyone to raise their hand if you are super excited for PowerPoint to death? Oh, liars. Unless you're officers. I was expecting all the officers to raise their hands. They love PowerPoints to death. Just kidding, please don't give me an SD though. So, with all joking aside, right, we do have required DoD training that we're going to go over. But before we roll into that, I wanted to put a little bit more of a personal touch to the mix. So, going off the black and white, in 2017, for active duty component, we lost 287 active duty members. In 2018, that number went up from 287 to 326. Then in 2019, that number went from 326 to 344. So obviously you can see that we're going up every single year. We're not going down. So whatever we're doing is clearly not working. And the 2020 numbers haven't been released, but with COVID, I'm pretty sure everyone in this room can know that the numbers are going to be way higher than 2019. So out of that 344 people that we lost in 2019, and that's just the active duty component, that consisted of 142 Army, 47 Marine Corps, 72 Navy, and 83 Air Force. In addition to the active duty component, we lost 65 Reserve. That consisted of 36 Army Reserve, 9 Marine Corps Reserve, 7 Navy Reserve, and 13 Air Force Reserve. In addition to that, we lost 89 National Guard, which consisted of 74 Army National Guard and 15 Air National Guard. That is a lot of people in 1 year. So those are just numbers, right? The black and white. Those are all each individual people that we lost with names and lives and stories. So to put a little bit more of a personal touch on the incoming PowerPoints of death, right? Let me describe to you 2 stories. The first one, so those of you that are outside of security, over the last year, we have switched sections and schedules more times than a Karen asked for a manager at Starbucks. It has been a lot, right? This most recent schedule change took place on May 4th. May the 4th be with you for those Star Wars fans. And I will now never forget May the 4th be with you, because that day is the day that I finally got my own section. I was finally going to nights after being on days for 90% of the 2 years that I've been here. So I was super excited. My section made fun of me for singing and dancing on Snapchat. I was just, point being is I was in a super good mood, right? Thought nothing can ruin it. Driving into work, started to get off on the trigger off ramp, and got a phone call. Luckily, the cell phones now have literal caller IDs, because I never answer numbers I don't recognize. But seeing that the caller ID said Los Angeles coroner office got my attention, so I answered the phone. The lady that was on the phone said, "Is this Kevin Gillespie?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Is your mother Lily Gillespie?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Are you currently driving?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Can you pull over?" And as soon as she said that, pretty sure everybody can understand what's going to come next. So I pulled over right in front of Trigger, and she said, "I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, but your mother was found a few hours ago from an apparent suicide. And I broke down. I got off the phone with her, drove through Trigger, parked in the security parking lot, and went from crying to being pissed and just screaming at the top of my lungs and slamming my steering wheel over and over again because of how pissed I was that she could do something like this and that she couldn't come to me with whatever she was going through. Instinctively, I didn't want to go down for MAs, you know what I'm saying? I'm so driven on work that I walked in, wasn't even gonna say anything, went to the armory to arm up, and my former chief, Chief Roman, saw something was wrong, because he's from Jersey, worst state ever. They can pump their gas, but they can pump their fist, but they can't pump their gas. And he would always make fun of me, right? Because he's from Jersey and he knows how Italians are. And when he was my chief, he would always be like, "Why are you so loud and talk with your hands constantly?" So he knew my personality. So when I walked up, pale as crap, he said, "Are you all right?" I looked at him, I didn't know what to say. He's like, "Come here." So he pulled me into the Washington office. He goes, "Something's wrong, what's wrong?" And I said, 10 minutes ago, the coroner office called me and told me that my mom took her life. And he's like, "What are you doing? Don't arm up. We'll get you on E-leave right now." So they rushed an emergency leave trip. I flew out the next morning to LA. When I got home, it was hard because she was the only family I had left. And I had to take care of everything in a quick amount of time. And part of that was going into her apartment to pack everything up. For those of you that have never experienced the smell of decomp, it is something that you will never, ever forget. And I was doing everything that I could with masks to hold my breath and pack everything up. And she lived in a studio apartment, so it was super tiny, right? Everything is in one room, to include her bed where they found her. What killed me the most is technical difficulties. What killed me the most was the fact that I looked over at her bed and saw maggots still crawling around her bed. And it shattered my heart into a million pieces, knowing that that is ultimately what happened to her in the end. I fought through it, I packed up her stuff, I buried her, flew back, and stood to watch that same night. And tried to block it out. But it just built up and it built up. And it's something that is super hard, and for anybody that loses a parent, it doesn't go away easily, right? Now let me tell you of another story that's a little harder. It's not on the mic. Let me stress that this story happened 10 years ago. When I had just picked up second class, I was super excited because I was finally not junior enlisted anymore, and I had somewhat of authority. I was part of one of our mobile security teams in Bahrain. We get attached to the civilian ships that supply our DDGs and our carriers and all those ships out at sea because they have no type of defense. So those teams are typically teams of 10. There's a chief that's the mission commander, a first class that's the tactical supervisor, both of which you typically don't ever see. They're usually on the bridge, of the civilian bridge. So that leaves 8 other people, right, that you have a daily interaction with. 4 on days, 4 on nights. It's a second class that's usually the chief of the guard and 3 gunners that rotate out.
So it's a small, tight-knit team, right? That's all you really have any kind of contact with. So usually those teams, you get close. One of my buddies that was on my team, I just made second, so they made me the chief of the guard of the night shift. We were super close, and we didn't really have internet out there except for Outlook. So whenever we got a chance to pull in the port to get supplies, I'd Skype with my adopted mom, and he'd be with me when we Skyped. He'd Skype his girlfriend in Florida, and I'd be with him. To the point where me and his girlfriend became good friends. She had me on Facebook, and we would talk periodically whenever we'd pull in the port. I guess we got close enough where he thought that I was trying to steal his girl, which was clearly not the case. One, we're in the Middle East and she's in Florida, and two, I'm gay, so I clearly didn't want anything to do with her. But this happened during a time of don't ask, don't tell, where I couldn't say anything because I would have gotten kicked out of the military. So I couldn't say anything to him. I tried coming out when I was in high school to my mom, and she freaked out, so I went back in the closet. And I was super close where I was back in the day with the church in which that I was at. So with drama in the Navy, right? When that all happened, he told the rest of the team that I was a bad guy and that I was trying to steal his girl, cause a bunch of drama, and everyone stopped talking. And when you're in a position where you literally only have a few people that you have any kind of contact with, and now you don't even have that anymore, and you're on the other side of the world, and you know that your family's not going to accept you because you already tried. You know the church is definitely not going to accept you, and you can't even be open in the military because you'll get processed out with a DD-214. So I sunk into a bad depression, and I thought at the moment, right, tunnel vision, the logical thing to do is to make everybody happy and get rid of the problem. So one night when I was the chief of the guard, we took shift, the night shift, right? I put my guys on their 240 mounts. I went up to the signal bridge. It's crazy because I have the worst memory ever. I can never even remember what I ate for breakfast. But the one thing that is seared into my memory is the moment in which I took my service pistol, put it into my mouth. I can every day remember the taste of the lead from the gun in my mouth. I can feel the cold salt air blowing in my face from the bridge. I can remember my heart racing 1,000,000 miles an hour. I can remember the feeling of the tears coming down my face as my hand is shaking on the trigger with the gun in my mouth, right? And I thought that that was going to solve everything. That I'd pull it, I'd fall over the side, wouldn't leave a mess for anyone to carry, and everyone would be happy because the problem child would be gone. Ironically, right, one of my guys called me on the radio for a head break, right as I was trying to pull the trigger. I freaked out, I let go, I holstered my gun, I gave him a head break, I went to our react room, and I broke down. Within a few hours, right, that morning, when we were getting off of shift, we pulled into port to get supplies. I went to Skype my adopted mom, who was super religious too, and she was talking to me on Skype, and I was typing responses back to her. And she's like, "What's wrong? Why aren't you talking?" And I just said nothing. She was, "Clearly something's wrong because you're not talking." And I said, "I can't tell you." She said, "Why?" I said, "Because you don't love me anymore." And she said, "Yeah, I will. Why don't you just tell me?" And I was like, "I can't." She goes, "If I guess, will you tell me?" And I kept typing the whole time, right? I said, "Sure, whatever." She started guessing. Did you kill somebody? Did you rape somebody? You know, all the extremes that you can think of. One of them was, are you gay? And I didn't respond to a single thing that she asked. And then the fear took over, and I just slammed the laptop, cut the call out, didn't say anything, and we were only in port for a few hours, and then we were pulling back out. So we went back out, and then that night, when I took shift again, I was like, all right, this time, I'm gonna turn the radio off, there's gonna be no distractions, and we're gonna get the job done. And I decided after that Skype call that I should have at least the decency to send an email. We had Outlook. Send an email to my adopted mom telling her when she finds out, right? This is the reason why. It has nothing to do with her, and I'm sorry. So I sent her an email saying, remember option number 4? Well, that was it. Thank God, right? For those of you that have been on ships, we use satellite for Outlook. It's pretty slow. Not to mention the time difference between Virginia and Bahrain. Luckily it went through right away. Luckily she got it right away. Luckily she responded right away, and I got it back within a few minutes. And her email was short and to the point, and it said, I love you no matter what. And I read that, and I broke down, and I couldn't believe it, because she's the most religious person that I've ever met in my life. And she's not even my blood. So I thought that if my own mother couldn't accept me, that she couldn't either. And that was my mistake, right? The fear and the darkness that was surrounding me in that moment of time made me think that there was no way out, that this was the only solution to fix the problem and make everybody happy. Which, for a lot of people that are going through their own respective struggles, right? Everybody in here has some type of story. I feel like most people had thought about the subject matter anyways, right? Not the same amount have ever made any kind of attempts. But we've all gone through our struggles, we've all had our stories, whatever it may be. But for those people that end up making this decision, they think that there's no way out. I thought there was no way out. This was the only solution to the mix. But after she told me that she loves me no matter what, I was transferring a month later to my new duty station in California, and decided that I was going to attempt to tell my respective close, immediate family and friends and see what their reaction would be. I lost friends and I lost family, but I made new friends and new people that I consider family, right? And I could not see that at the moment. It was tunnel vision, right? And I had no faith in my chain of command. Besides, don't ask, don't tell, right? There are plenty of people in the chain of command that would have understood and just not helped me out without mentioning that part, so I wouldn't get kicked out. So the reason for these personal stories is I want you guys to understand, right? I'm not the only one. There are plenty of other people that are in your chain of commands that have been through their own struggles. Don't think that there's nobody that you can not go to. I wish that I had told somebody at that moment. I'm thankful for a radio traffic call that kept me here today. But there's so many people, that 344 active duties that we lost in 2019 that didn't have a radio traffic that saved their butts. You know what I'm saying? And we shouldn't have 344 active duty taking their lives. So please understand, no matter what you guys are going through, there's always a way out. I'm telling you, you may not see it, but there is a way. Find somebody that you can trust and confide in to help get you through whatever you need to. Chaps is here in the back, and I'm telling you, not to put all the burden on him, but a chaplain is legally bound to not say anything in which you tell them. That is the one sole person that you can go to talk to, even if you're not religious, to help you through the process. There's a slew of DoD resources that Fleet and Family is going to go over here shortly that will help you get through it. So I know that PowerPoints suck, but it's good information, and just know that there are people here that care about you, whether you think so or not, that will help you get through whatever it is you happen to go through, right? With that being said, I'll turn the floor over to Fleet and Family so she can go over the DoD training.